life comes complete with tons of different activities you can do and improve at. And some of these activities, according to some people, are worse than others. And this is where we get the concept of the normie in computer science, Linux, nerd as fuck circles, where you consider certain hobbies, like maybe reading something like this book, or having a package manager with a file that declaratively describes what you want installed and then rebuilds your system rather than just typing in the install commands by hand. You consider those activities superior to certain other activities. And I don't know, to give some examples of those other activities, people will say following sports, like following NFL games, or following NASCAR, or drinking and going out to bars, or I don't know, certain other activities that are often like indulgent and kind of just consumerist, sitting and watching TV shows all day. And then you kind of look down on those people as normies because they don't see the value in your activities of Linux and being a programmer and upholding our internet infrastructure. And this often creates kind of like a social divide where it's really hard for you to interact with these normies because you feel like this kind of weird superiority to them on interests. And some of you are probably like very humble and good people and don't have this problem at all. But I know there are a lot of people that do have this problem. I kind of have it, I think, where there are just certain activities that don't appeal to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a very normal part of being in society. There's just different things you can do, and some of those things like I don't really want to get a ton of tattoos and smoke crack and I don't know, hang out in Miami all day. It's just, it doesn't seem that appealing to me. The problem is like you don't want to impair your social abilities by having a superiority complex about certain activities. Like, there's no reason to be condescending or be a dick to someone who's interested in basketball, you know, and that's what they follow. It's also like, if you dismiss someone's entire personality based on their interests, like, oh, that person just watches TV all day, you can miss out on some really interesting characters. However, it's not like the easiest thing in the world to just start talking to someone I would consider like a hardcore normie, you know, like maybe like a field hockey girl who plays field hockey and then like the rest of her time is spent in her bed like watching TikTok, and then she orders Uber Eats every day. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I would have an extremely difficult time talking to people who I have this idea in my mind are normies. The problem is, like, I can kind of recognize that idea in my mind as like a complete fabrication and oversimplification of someone's entire like worldview and personality, and like their worldly experience is just as rich and meaningful as mine, because it all doesn't really matter in the end. But like I can't get rid of this like feeling that what I'm doing is somehow more important, more impactful, more interesting, more like rich than someone who's just like consuming information all day. Maybe it's not like a bad attitude to have. It's like important to have standards about things, but yeah, it can make it hard for, I think a lot of people, a lot of guys, especially like us who use Linux or Mac OS, but it looks exactly like Linux, so it might as well be Linux, have trouble with this kind of thing, like talking to people that don't have similar interests. And what's interesting is the opposite is also true. Like, when you find someone who has the same interest as you, another huge, massive nerd, you connect at like a deeper level much more quickly. You kind of just both like acknowledge you don't care about small talk. It just like immediately skips that cutscene, and you're two like substantive content. This has happened, like, what's great about this channel is several times, there's 6 or 7 times, like senior engineers or just more experienced engineers at different companies, like, reach out to me. Just, I don't know what their motivation is exactly. They just want to talk to a kindred spirit, I guess, which is totally reasonable. And they just like, they kind of give me a tour, talk shop about like what it's going to be like to be a software engineer down the line at their age with kids and stuff, you know? And one guy who was working in the Gemini team at Google, like, gave me a tour of what he was working on, which sadly, like, I was going to record and upload to YouTube and leak it. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. I was just going to give you a little heart attack if you're watching. But yeah, that guy, like, complete stranger from the internet, complete random guy. But just like within 30 seconds, it was like to deep technical topics. And like, it's not just technical topics. We'll talk about any kind of life philosophy and stuff. There's just certain characters who are like really interested in how things work under the hood are really easy for me to talk to. And then other people that are not as interested in it, this is what it appears on the surface to me. Like, they're just not, certain people are not very interesting to me. But I feel like that's, maybe it's just how things should be, and like normies should be kind of people that you don't really enjoy talking to. But I feel like it's problematic to be like, oh, that person's worldviews don't conform to mine. The way that person spends their time, I find despicable. There's nothing I can learn from them at all. But it's like, I don't know, something about that feels wrong. It feels like it should be easy to talk to people who aren't interested in memory allocators and stuff. Well, actually, it kind of is. I feel like there's three camps of people. So there are people who are also in your field of computer science or math or whatever your like autistic interest is. And those people are the easiest to talk to. And then there's people who aren't in your field, but they're also like autistically interested in something. Like, I don't know, I find my parents are like this, or I don't know. So is someone who's interested in biology, or like someone who's a really invested English major. Also, I find them pretty easy to talk to because they, like, I can get interested in their subject kind of and just keep asking them questions. And people love to answer questions. But it's people that like watch a lot of TikTok or watch a lot of short form content or just watch a lot of YouTube and aren't super like good at anything. It's just a lot harder to talk to them. So those are kind of the three camps, like computer science people that are really interesting, and then also really interesting people that are focused on something, but it's not my discipline. And then there's people that just don't seem to have as much direction or ability, and they just like want to drink all day or something. It's like, it's hard for me to be interested in those people at all, but I feel like it's just maybe an internal thing. I don't know. What are your suggestions in the comments for how to interact with normies? And what do you think about the term normie? To me, it has this like, at first I was like, yeah, those people are normies. But then after a while, I started to think that's kind of just like I'm too afraid to talk to anyone who doesn't have my same worldview, like socially isolated, us versus them, like incel behavior, which, yeah, I don't know. It just seems a little icky to me in some ways. But yeah, a lot of you can probably relate on some level. Anyway, I'll catch you next time.